Hello BookTube, it's Ben here from the History Fair channel. Today I thought I'd do like a quick book review on a recent book that I've finished. Let me just read from my book and notes. Never Had It So Good by Dominic Sandbrook. It covers Britain from 1956 up to 63. It's published by Abacus. You can get it on Kindle for, I think it's £5.99, and in paperback for about £12. Obviously that's British pounds, so you need to change that for dollars if you're in the US. But certainly it's available in all good bookshops or huge online stores, if that's what you prefer. But anyway, to the book, it's a really good book. It's about sort of a decade in British history, just after the Second World War. It's kind of like when Britain started becoming modern, or the rest of the world certainly did as well. But it starts mainly at the Suez Crisis, and all the effects and that had on the country, how it kind of eventually brought down the country. Spans all the way through to eventually finishes in 63, kind of like the time when both political parties in the UK changed their leaders. So you then had Alec Douglas-Home, who was for the Conservatives, and you had Harold Wilson, who was the new leader of the Labour Party. And it's primarily about change in society between Conservative and Labour. The Conservatives wanted to emphasise that, the country had gone through the Second World War, and then there were still bleak times like rationing and social problems, and also it was the time when Britain was trying to get back into rebuilding itself and its industry. So obviously when the things are kind of starting again at the beginning, like all industrial countries have to do, it's a bit like starting from the beginning when things are a bit slow and hard to get going. But I mean, that kind of was happening under a Labour government, and the Conservatives were wanting to make sure this was well known, that now we were in a period of prosperity in the sort of from the mid-50s, and it's really about the increase from decline into a more affluent country. People were getting jobs, so we could find new homes. Industry was rebuilding itself, and it was obviously producing more goods, and people were getting paid more, which meant there was more income in people's households. So it was kind of a prosperous time, and that's how it kind of went towards the end of the decade. And then, unfortunately, kind of when we hit the 60s, and certainly the mid-60s, things start to tail off a little bit, which is then covered in Dominic Sandbrook's next book. But it covers, this book, Never Had It So Good, covers things like the Perfumer affair, the rise of the Beatles, James Bond, television, because you've got the birth of television in Britain from sort of the mid-50s, and then you've got all the new British TV shows. Probably the standout, as everyone would know, would be Doctor Who. Yes, it's been around that long, but that's when it all sort of kicked off. Then you've got things like, I probably just mentioned James Bond movies, that dynasty of films kicked off then. And generally we were in the late 50s, early 60s was kind of like a boom time in Britain, as it was elsewhere around the world. Probably the only real downside was eventually there was a decline in industry, but also it was a time when foreign countries or countries around the world were deciding they wanted independence from the British Empire and were trying to go their own separate way. We've got countries like India, quite a few of the African countries, Mediterranean, Middle Eastern countries from the Caribbean. That was the time when they were all deciding to leave and kind of stand on their own 2 feet. So that was really the only serious downfall or decline. And this is all covered in Dominic's book, which is, in my opinion, very well written. He's kind of got an ease about his writing. You'll often find in British history books they're kind of taught and, let's say, told to us by historians that tend to be of, they're well educated and they're all dressed in smart suits and that sort of thing. But Dominic Sandbrook's quite a down-to-earth character, and he's kind of like an everyday man sort of person. So it's a very well written book. I would certainly recommend it to anyone who wanted to buy it, and I would personally give it about a 4 out of 5 stars. Probably the only reason I wouldn't give it a 5-star is he's a conservative writer, or a conservative supporter, shall we say, in his own personal politics, and sometimes that slightly comes into his books, certainly in some of his later ones. And there was a couple of points in the book I didn't think were quite right, but that's why I'm giving it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. So that's Never Had It So Good, written by Dominic Sandbrook. It's Britain from 56 to 63, and that's published by Abacus. Available on Kindle for about $5.99, and in paperback at about £12. So there we go. Thank you very much for watching this book review. I hope you enjoyed it, and I shall see you in the next video. Thank you very much.